Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back to chat about some recent video game stuff because finally Nintendo has officially named and at least announced the successor to their Nintendo Switch. They have announced the Nintendo Switch 2. No funny names this time, no Wii U or Switch U or weird nonsense like that. I know some people are, I don't know, some people say they're annoyed they wanted something more creative or what. It's really funny. Some people they'll say one minute they'll say they want something more creative, and then it's like, well, no, that's too weird. We want something more traditional, and like you're never going to make anybody happy, especially with what the new form factor of the Switch 2 is. It makes perfect sense. It looks like a regular Nintendo Switch, but with a few extra features. It's a little bit bigger. We don't officially have the specs for it just yet. There have been a lot of rumors on the specs, but I'm not going to go through them. I'm not going to acknowledge them right now because, again, just like Apple stuff, I don't like. Yes, I care, but I want to just wait to hear it officially. I don't need to every other day hear a new thing about we made a mistake. It's the processor's this, or no, it's at this speed, or it's got this much RAM, or whatever. I'll wait for the official unveiling later this spring. But before I talk about it a little bit further, let's watch their little over 2 minute video about the Switch 2, and I'll give you my thoughts. And then we'll talk about a few other things. There's our Switch, old Switch. It's bigger. Kind of doing the little Apple device flyby thing. We're just, it's getting bigger. We got some volume buttons. We got some USB ports. Volume. Looks like we might have 2 USB ports, which is nice. We got a kickstand. Now I'm going to pause it there. I like the wider kickstand. That first Switch kickstand that they had, that stupid flimsy thing, sucked. This one looks like it could be good. I know even the Switch OLED kind of did the Microsoft Surface thing, where it had the whole back part, which I kind of liked. So let's keep going. It's showing a bunch of different angles. You can have it more flat or more 45 degree. Got your Joy-Cons. Now they do look slightly bigger. You got your analog stick and your D-pad type buttons on the left. There's not a D-pad, they're separate, but they're just like the other, the old Switch. Now on the right side, you got your 4 face buttons and your analog stick. And then there's one additional button. We don't know what it is. Some people are speculating could be something with some social stuff or sharing, but we don't. Again, I'm not even going to speculate. I have no clue. I'm glad the Joy-Cons are at least a little bigger, because that was one of my major complaints about both Switch models, the original Switch and the OLED. The Joy-Cons, I don't have the largest hands, but I do have fairly large hands, and I found my hands would just cramp up, or it felt bad to play Switch games for any length of time. So I would use a Switch Pro controller, or more often than not, I had these, what the heck were they even called? I did a video review of them on the hardware review section. I can't even remember what they're called. If I think about it, I'll let you know. But they were basically they chopped a regular controller in half and they slid on the rails instead of the Joy-Cons, and they were much more comfortable to play with than the regular Joy-Cons. So I hope that these are a little more ergonomically friendly to us that found the original to be cramped. Let's continue. We're panning around, swooping around. Now, the other thing with these is it's a magnetic. They don't slide on the rails, I don't think. It's more of a magnetic system. So I'm curious how well or how strong the magnets are going to be. That's something that we're going to have to find out because, like, MagSafe, it's strong-ish, but like if you're holding the system and I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see on that. There's your other one. And it's got the little covers as if you want your extra buttons and stuff. Now here's where it gets interesting. These your face buttons, more your Joy-Cons, you got your analog sticks. Now here, they're putting it like sideways. So like this one, let's say you'd be holding it where the rails are. There's like some sort of like infrared or some sort of like whatever you're using on like your optical mouse. And it's thought that you can use the Joy-Cons in like a mouse type mode, which could be interesting in a few ways, maybe for accessibility or for even just playing certain types of games. If you're playing a strategy game where you're moving a cursor around a lot, or even playing a lot of these boomer shooters are available on multiple platforms, not just PC. If I could have my Switch hooked up to Switch 2 hooked up to a TV, or even just with the kickstand on a table, and I could just be comfortably holding the left Joy-Con and moving with the analog stick on with my left hand, but then my right hand I could be, basically having mouse look on my right hand. I don't know. Again, we'll see how ergonomic it is and if that's even a thing, but that's sort of what we're getting a vibe of right here. They're kind of racing around in that vertical form, and they sort of... Now that's a thing that I'm a little potentially worried about. When they slide on like that, you see that little... It looks like a little piece that sticks out there. I hope that's durable, because I could see that being the weakest point as far as like, oh, is that going to break? It's one thing if you have like a USB connector that's in the device, but if you have something sticking out like that, I don't know. As this magnet slides in or snaps in, a little bit of a different noise than the original. The Switch 2. You get a little bit more. There's your Switch itself. Now here we got a screenshot or a little bit of a footage. We got a new Mario Kart game. This is the only one that they show in the video. There's like the starting line there. We got a bunch of characters. And I didn't look at it that closely, but they're saying that there's like 24 like starting slots there. So maybe you're going to have 24 racers in Mario Kart, which could be chaos. Be pretty fun. You have the dock there, just like the original. Very similar in design. Yep, have it on the TV. There's your little snap the Joy-Cons in the little base thingy. 2025. So this screen here, it's basically saying that, hey, your Switch 1 games are going to be backwards compatible, physical and digital. So if you got some physical games, digital games, you'll be able to mostly play them. Now they do say that there are going to be some that may not be compatible, and maybe they use original like Switch gimmicks or something, or maybe I don't know if we don't know what's going to be in these new Joy-Cons. Do they have that HD rumble that they were talking about in the first Switch? Do they have that? Do they have something different? Does it have like Wii, like pointer kind of functionality? Again, we've seen the controllers, we've seen the system now, but this is really all they give us. But I mean, I am glad that we are getting backwards compatibility, hopefully for the most part. And I don't know, they're going to be backwards compatible, but are we going to get any performance enhancements if I load a Switch game that maybe didn't get the best frame rate, let's say, on the original Switch? Will it run better, or will it upscale, or will it do both on the Switch 2? I have no idea. And that's just what we don't know yet. So that's what it's telling you there. Nintendo Direct 4/2/2025. So that is where they're going to do their big unveiling, probably show off a lot of the software, a lot of the launch games that are going to be coming out. Maybe they'll talk about some existing games that maybe, again, if they do run better on Nintendo Switch 2, who knows? And yeah, Switch 2, there we go. No launch date. No launch date, but no launch date, no launch price. So what is it going to launch for? I have no idea. And it's funny because people were just, when are they going to announce it? When are they going to announce it? And like I was kind of the same way. I mean, yes, I'm interested in the Switch 2, but I have lots of questions, and I didn't really feed into the constant hype. I didn't feed into the constant rumor mill or speculation. You know, every other day there's some new speculation about some feature or some spec of the system. Because, you know, again, it's so easy to get hyped up and then either disappointed or underwhelmed. I'm just going to be like, yeah, it's probably going to be the same or similar form factor as the original Switch. And that's perfectly fine because now we have the Steam Deck, we have all these other PC handhelds. And I'm curious how, you know, specs wise, I'm curious how it's going to compare to the specs of, let's say, the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck, because, you know, we have these multi-platform games, and you know, how well do they run on, you know, if you've got a whole bunch of things in your Steam library, I could play them on a Windows handheld or I could play them on a Steam Deck. What is the battery life going to be compared to some of these handheld PCs? What is it going to be like compared to the original Switch? Is it going to be, are we going to go back to LCD and have to wait for a future iteration to give us OLED again? I really, really hope not. Or at the very least, I hope that there could be two launch SKUs. Just release a cheaper LCD version. Maybe you give that one to the kids to save some money, and that way they don't have to worry about wrecking a nice OLED system. But for the people who want it, I mean, I know it's the Nintendo thing to do. We'll release, you know, 5 different versions of the same console, different colors, and oh, maybe this one has a larger screen or a smaller screen, or oh, we go from LCD to OLED. I mean, I once I found a buyer, a friend of mine bought my original Switch from me for cheap, and I decided to upgrade to the OLED. Which I really, really love. I love OLED screens. I love the crispness, the clarity. And so I hope we don't regress and go back to LCD because, man, the Steam Deck OLED, the Switch OLED, the Switch 2, I really pray that it comes in an OLED model as a choice as well. I don't know if it's just going to be this kind of gray version, if we're going to get multiple colors. So again, you know, what's the storage going to be? You know, how much the processor, how much storage? Is it going to support SD cards? Any of this stuff, we just don't know. But, you know, since this trailer came out yesterday as I'm recording this, it's funny because people were all hyped up and like, oh my God, they're going to announce it. They have to announce it this week. And they did. They released this like a little over 2-minute video teaser. And I think if a lot of it wouldn't have leaked, it would have been at least a little more mildly interesting, because you know, it's like, okay, yes, now we know that it is officially called the Switch 2. It looks like a little bigger, better Switch, you know, but we knew about the form factor largely, or people speculated. We knew about people were speculating about the mouse functionality for the Joy-Cons, the extra button. We still don't know what it's for, but we knew there was an extra button. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff was leaked, so it took a lot of the wow factor out of anything that this trailer might have unveiled. And here's where I think that Nintendo could have done a little bit better to still hype up the Switch 2 and yet not give everything away. They didn't even have to give a price or release date. But you go back and look at the original Nintendo Switch launch. They had that neat little trailer where the guy's is playing Zelda at night and then has to go out and walk his dog, and then they show, the rooftop, the rooftop party thing and the airplane and all that jazz. But they showed a few different games. Even if they don't go into detail, if they showed 3 to 5 seconds tops of a game, I think if they would have put like a half a dozen games to expect, maybe by the end of the year, like in the original Switch trailer, they had Mario Galaxy, they had a Mario Kart game, they showed Skyrim, they showed Splatoon. There might have been one or two other games in there. I don't remember, but those are the four that I really remember from the original Switch trailer. Yes, we got okay, we've confirmed that there's some Mario Kart gaming coming to the Switch 2, which is great. I love me some Mario Kart. But I think because so much of the hardware specs have gotten leaked or speculated accurately enough to where people kind of knew what was going to happen, it's like, oh yeah, well, they confirmed basically what we thought we already knew. So then now people are all mad, which is stupid. Again, people are always gonna find something to bitch about, something to complain about. For what the video was, I'm glad they told us right away that it's backwards compatible, or at least going to be to some extent backwards compatible. Again, I would imagine there's like fringe games. Maybe there's games that use certain accessories. There was that weird, what was it called? There's like we had like an exercise band where you could put the Joy-Con in there, and like, I can't remember what that was called. There's that, and there's a few other accessories that may or may not work with the Switch. So I could see those being like, oh, maybe that's where those titles aren't backwards compatible or something like that. But I would hazard a guess to say I would expect the vast majority of the Switch library to be backwards compatible. I would think, or I would hope. Like I said, are we gonna get an LCD or an OLED version? What's the battery life? What are the specs? They'll get into that, I'm sure, in April. But yeah, I wish if they would have, maybe if they're working on some sort of a new 2D or 3D Mario game. Obviously, they're gonna do that. It's probably gonna be another Zelda. I don't know if Metroid Prime 4 is gonna be a cross-gen game, or if they've just said, screw it, we're gonna save it for the better hardware, and it's going to be a Switch 2 exclusive. Maybe, even if they would have just showed 3 to 5 seconds of Metroid, maybe 3 to 5 seconds of a Mario game, they're probably going to do some other Splatoon game. I don't know if they're going to do, you'd have to imagine maybe whether, I forget the guy's name, Sakai or whatever, who does the Smash Brothers game. I don't know if he'll be behind it or if they're going to try to do a new Smash Brothers game, but I would have to kind of imagine there would be. Even like a Mario Maker, maybe that's another thing. If you're using the mouse thing, you could either use the touch screen, or if you're using, like, if you had it on your big TV, you could be sitting there with like a TV tray in front of you. You could use a lot of the grid and a lot of the UI for course creation, maybe a little bit easier rather than using a pointer or D-pad through everything or whatever. So yeah, I mean, if they would go to even 3 to 4 games, 3 to 6 games, I would say. Couple third-party titles, because there's that rumored Oblivion remake, remaster thing that we might see next week from Microsoft. That's almost sounding like it's going to be a pretty sure thing, and whether that comes to, Microsoft's doing their whole multi-platform spiel now, so stuff is going to probably come more to Switch and PlayStation. But yeah, get a couple third-party games in there, get another Mario game, or get something first-party in there to show. I think that would have, because so much of the stuff had leaked already, I think if they would have even just acknowledged, like, hey, here's 3 to 6 games that we're going to tease you with, that we're going to talk about in April, that would have, I think that would have helped. And of course, being the channel that I am, we have to address the elephant in the room. Will the Nintendo Switch 2 have improved accessibility? No idea. I tried to poke around a little bit, haven't heard anything. Again, one could argue the Joy-Cons, I don't know if they're going to have HD Rumble. Are they going to have any other gimmick to them? If they have the mouse type functionality, that could potentially be helpful for certain users to use a control in another configuration. But as far as like system software or like your Switch dashboard, is it going to carry over the magnifier feature from the original? I certainly hope so. I use it all the time. But even better, will they finally catch up to Sony and Microsoft? Will they put a screen reader in the damn thing? Will we be able to have text to speech for our dashboard, our settings, our eShop? That would be very, very, very helpful, and I guarantee you I would be using that. So, I mean, I know Japan is starting to do more with accessibility, but they're a little slower with things, it seems. And I really can't say. I would love to be optimistic, but it's Nintendo. They're really, really slow to adopt things sometimes. And so, it's like for years people were saying, wow, Nintendo has to learn. They haven't even learned what the internet is yet. You still use friend codes and all this antiquated, like they don't have voice chat. They don't have just a lot of these modern conveniences that your modern consoles have, as far as like eShop stuff or social networking, or being able to stream from your console or record clips, or any number of different things that people sort of take for granted now. And Nintendo started to sort of catch up with some of that, but I don't know. I guess when they announce more of their final specifications for the system, maybe we'll get some, hopefully we'll get some good news on the accessibility front. I did also forget to mention at the end of the trailer, they did say that there are some kind of Nintendo events starting in April and going through like early summer. But there's only in the bigger cities, and of course it's like coastal. You got your New York and California and Texas, I believe there was. I was hoping Minneapolis would have been big enough that, hey, show the upper Midwest some love, and then I could have gone to check some of that out. But it sounds like nope. East and West Coast, and maybe some Texas or something, and then some stuff in other countries. But yeah, so there, people are going to be able to see it. As far as launch date goes, I have no idea. If I had to guess, I would guess summer, early fall. Um, my guess would be sometime between June and like September. I think they would be better to do it over the summer, where they could get a lot of their pre-orders in if they have any manufacturing issues, availability issues, so they can get their round two when you come to Black Friday and the holiday season. Get some of that, have that second run of Switch 2, throw in a bundle once more games come out, So you kind of have the two-wave thing. You got the early adopter pre-orders, and then you have everybody else for the holidays. Price-wise, I mean, I would love to see it come in at 300, but I highly doubt it's going to be 300. 350, I could maybe see, but if I had to guess, I would guess between 350, 400 would probably be what I would guess. Because, if you're looking at a family system, this is again, you compare it to something like the Rogue Ally or the Steam Deck or any of these other computer handhelds. The other thing, besides the form factor that Nintendo has, is you get Nintendo systems because of Nintendo's games. Your Mario, Zelda, Metroid, anything like that, Smash Brothers, what have you. So that's something exclusive that obviously they're not going to give up. But if they're wanting, parents to purchase it for their kids, they can't really go too high with it. Otherwise, I don't see it selling. Like, well, you already got a Switch. You can be happy with that. I mean, that's the way my parents would have been. But I really can't see it going. I think, and we don't know what things are going to be like with the tariffs, and everything. We got our inauguration day with our whole new overlord here in a few days, which I'm really wondering about. Are we going to have a lot of these tariffs and things where the price of everything goes up more? And so, maybe under ordinary circumstances, they might have been able to squeak through at 350, but especially if they have to account for stupid shit like that, then, I would see 400 being a more likely possibility. So I hope we get an OLED. I hope we get it sometime, maybe early summer. That'd be great. Early to midsummer at the latest. Like I said, April 2nd is when we're going to get the Nintendo Direct. And I really genuinely hope, because, we're not going to get another fresh, full Nintendo system for probably another, 5, 7, 8 years? I mean, 2017 is when the original Switch came out. So, yeah, you're looking at probably 5 to 7 years. And if that's a whole nother generation that they just ignore blind accessibility, that would be a frickin' shame. But again, it's Nintendo. The Nintendo's going to do what Nintendo does, and I don't know. I don't know if Nintendo is going to follow by example and catch up to the other two systems. We'll just have to wait and see. It's so funny because they always talk about, we make games for everyone. We want to we want to include everybody and whatnot. But then they just haven't caught up on some of the accessibility stuff. But in some ways, they make some of their games uniquely accessible, like just some of the way they design their games. Again, accessible design can compensate for and be a lot of times preferable to, like, we don't have to bolt on a whole bunch of extra accessibility features because the game was designed well, but there are just certain things that that you just have to put on top of a game or an interface. Like, blind people they need text to speech. That's just plain and simple. That's what they need to be able to read menus and such. So hopefully they do that. I don't know, but that is kind of my thoughts, my speculation. I mean, I'm not overly wowed by it. They showed pretty much exactly what I thought they would. Again, I wish they would have showed maybe a few seconds of 3 to 4 more games, 3 to 6 more games. That would have been something just to know, like, because again, the system is as good as it is, but it's the software. What kind of cool Nintendo games are we going to look forward to? Um, yeah, but now that we have the Nintendo Switch 2 officially announced, now we might be able to get some of these third parties say, yeah, we're developing this game and it's going to also come out on the Switch too. So especially if we get more kind of AAA graphic type things, you might get an idea of there's going to be a lot more indie games, or oh, we get this maybe maybe Microsoft. Oh, is Doom the upcoming Doom game? I just went stupid. What is the name of the new Doom game? The cool medieval thing that I'm very very much looking forward to. But it's like, oh yeah, we're going to put that out on the Switch too. And that'll at least give us an idea of like, oh, okay, well now we sort of know roughly, what the system might be capable of. So, yeah, I mean that's really all we can say. I'm glad we have backwards compatibility, but other the rest of it, the games, the hardware, the specs, we're other than seeing the pictures of it here, we will have to wait and see. And finally, just a couple seconds here. There's been a lot of talk about Microsoft really going a lot like third party. The whole this is an Xbox ads that they've got going, a campaign that they have going on. It's like, oh, your computer, your phone, your TV, your I don't know, your microwave, whatever. This is an Xbox. Um, and now Sony's going through some stuff too because they've kind of had this whole thing the last couple of years, few years, like, oh, we're gonna pivot we've been making all these single player games, your Spider-Mans and Last of Us and all these other different things and God of Wars, and now we really want to push this live service because we want to make all the money just like Fortnite and everybody else does. That didn't work out so well. So Concord, that just was a disaster last year. Apparently, we just learned in the last day or so that like there was a God of War live service game in development. I don't even know what the hell that would even. What would you even do? That doesn't even make sense to me. What would you? What would you even do for a god? Because like God of War is a character game. It's all about Kratos and Atreus and the few gods and things. Like what you got some rando dudes, or are you trying to take down all the gods? Are you trying to fight Kratos? Or I It just sounds weird. I just don't really. I mean, maybe it could have worked, but that's not what people I don't think are really looking for a God of War game. But apparently that got canceled. They had some other live service game that got canceled. So yeah, like Sony went all in on this whole live service shenanigans, and it is not. Oh yeah, The Last of Us. They were going to do that multiplayer thing that sounded kind of cool. People really liked The Last of Us multiplayer on the older games, but Naughty Dog is really good at their single player stuff, and so now they've wasted so much time over the past couple of years. I know they announced their futuristic game at the Game Awards last month, but they use how much resources to try to experiment with this multiplayer spiel that they've just canned, and so well now if they're gonna do another game in addition to their futuristic game, or even if they're just gonna do that one, well, they used a lot of resources that they could have used for that on this now canceled Last of Us multiplayer game, and so yeah, I think this year is probably going to be the year. Like the last 2 3 years, we've had all these layoffs and closures and mergers and buyouts and horrible. There have been great years for games, but like if you're a company or if you work in the industry, good luck. Good luck. I think this is the year where it's gonna be. This is kind of gonna be the thing. Companies are going to just have to scale back a little bit. I mean, a AAA game can still be AAA and not cost $800 billion to develop the damn thing. Maybe we don't have to, if it's an open world game, we don't have to pad out the game with 300 repetitive racing missions and collect the doodad missions and just pointless quests to, fluff up the or fluff up the play time. I like open world games, but it's like I want the quests and side quests and things. I want to explore unique areas. I want to, if I do a side quest, not just like, whoa, kill 40 rats and kill 30 of these and go find the weird thingy in the cave. I'm like, we've only done that, 100,000 times. So, I'm totally fine with a smaller scale game. We don't have to have, absolute photorealism for every game. I like that in some of, seeing how some of that is, but a great simple art style can be just as effective. I really, really want to Wind Waker the HD Wind Waker to come to the Switch. A great art style, even like, from 20 years ago, still looks great. So, just think about that. I would actually kind of like to see even, especially a lot of the bigger, because the indie stuff, the hardest part about indies is discoverability. You can make an awesome indie game, but between all the good games and especially all the extra shovelware crap that's out there on every platform now, and the way that a lot of the stores are set up, that they just show anything and everything, and it's hard to filter the good stuff out. I would say discoverability is the hardest part about indie, no matter what kind of game you make. But as like AAA, I think they needed to really just scale back. Like I said, you can still have good production values. You can still, kind of have the wow factor. But I'm totally fine with a linear game, story-based game. I'm totally fine with an open world game that, it's 730 square miles, and every blade of grass is handcrafted, and like we don't need that necessarily. We have 850 side quests and whatever. Um, I'm fine with, a 10 to 20 hour game if, maybe having replayability or different things, but I people are just going to have to scale back, and I think that's perfectly fine. There's so much media coming out, movies, shows, games, books, music. Um, and people are playing these games that have been out 5, 10 years ago. They're still playing them. So there's a lot of things fighting for our attention and fighting for our wallets with everything else getting expensive. Companies are just going to have to, I think, realize that, rein things in again, and really just focus on. And again, it would really help if companies would just focus on making a great game. Like that guy said at the end of the Game Awards show, it's like, don't just do it because that's what you think people want. Don't do it because you want to monetize first and throw a game in there second. Don't do that. Make a fun game, and don't worry. Both sides of this DEI crap. Some people, well, we want more diverse characters, and then you get the other side that these are too diverse characters. How dare you have a black person? How dare you have a woman in your game? I'm so over all of it. I don't care if I play as a man, a woman, a person in a wheelchair. I don't care if, I don't care if the game is fun. And if you're not just shoehorning something in there just to like, hey, see, we did a thing. We put a gay character in our game. We see how open we are. Just have it just another character. Have it whether it's a main character, side character. I don't care. As if it's fun, if it's good, it's fine. And that's where I land on all that. So I think the next 6 months are going to be pretty interesting just to see. We got Microsoft's event on the 23rd, which I may have to talk about. Maybe I'll even just do a recording of me watching it and reacting to it. I don't know if that's even allowed. Sony, I would have to imagine they will eventually have a state of play, but who knows with all these games getting canceled from them now. What do they even have to show? Who knows? But we do have some, March through or February through June. I think we're having a fair few games that are going to be coming out, and holy crap, I did that demo time video for Butcher's Creek around Halloween last year. That melee game where you're just like bashing dudes with wrenches and stuff. That's coming out on the 23rd. I'm very, very eager to play that one. I will definitely be covering the full game of that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the indie games is what's going to keep me going. As far as accessible games, I have no idea. I don't know if Assassin's Creed, they pushed that back to March. I don't know if that's going to be blind accessible. We'll see what Microsoft does, if any of their games will finally be blind accessible. I know we've got The Last of Us Part 2 coming to PC. I actually pre-ordered that on Steam, so I'll be able to cover and play that. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But especially with the troubles that the gaming industry is going through the last few years, and if companies have to rethink the way they're doing things and rescale and what have you, we might, it sucks, but we might see kind of another, what's the word I'm looking for? We might see a slower year as far as blind accessible games. I would love to be wrong. I would absolutely love to be wrong. But with all the other things that the game industry is trying to overcome, I mean, yes, we are a niche market, and they should, I would still love for them to remember and acknowledge us, but, they got to get their stuff back to being stable and what have you too. So, I don't know, guys. We will see. I will be back to talk about more of the Switch 2 stuff in April once we know more about that. But yeah, 23rd next week. We got Microsoft. We got who knows when Sony's going to do. So, anywho, that is some thoughts on the Switch 2, the current state of gaming, accessibility, and boy howdy, we're not even a month into 2025, and it is a interesting, kind of ugly mess. So we'll see. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. Blue Sky at Illegally Cited. IllegallyCited.com. Twitch.tv/Illegally Cited. And of course, right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.